your host. And I'm here today with a really special guest who I met, I don't even know how many years ago, but it was when I had my chocolate franchise. And one day, this lovely lady walked into the store and we struck up a conversation and have been friends ever since. Right? Well,
2006.
2006. All right.
Yeah.
Welcome, Catherine Dugan LaBelle. Hey, Catherine,
Hi.
thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited that you're here and I'm so happy you said yes. But listen, you know what the podcast is about, right? It's like
Yes.
what's that milk crate moment, that that defining moment in your life that changed your life or changed your business. Would you like to talk about that?
I'd love to.
Awesome.
So I have to uh, do a precursor to my
Sure,
story.
go ahead.
So in 2006, I moved from Buffalo Grove down to the LaGrange area. And just about the same time, there's this movie came out called The Secret. And I watched it, and I had my husband watch it, and had my kids sit down and watch it. And it was just like an aha for me. Like I could visualize and, create my life, right?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how the ball started rolling. A lot of things happened in the next 2 years. My father became ill with cancer. I had lost my mom 20 years before when I was 21. I was 42. And my dad was dying of cancer. And it was in April of '07. And we had all been with him. I'm one of nine, all been with him for the last 4 months, taking turns visiting with him out in Iowa. And it was getting pretty close to the end. It was a Sunday night, and I asked if I could stay in his room with him overnight. And he lived in my sister's house, and my sister had a full-time house manager, I'll say. And her name was Amina. And she was about my age. My dad is 39 years older than me. And they had been really close friends, I would say. So I'm in the room with my dad, and he woke up in the night. I was sitting in the chair and I saw him, and I went over to the side and I looked at him and he smiled, and I said, "I love you." And his eyes got as big as saucers, and his smile just radiated out of his face. And I knew at that moment he was not looking at me, his daughter. He was envisioning Amina at the side of his bed. And he said, "You do?" And he was just infatuated in love with her. And which is a beautiful thing to say, that the heart never has an age, right? It never
Right.
grows old. And I realized at that moment that no man had ever looked at me that way. And I decided that that was it. I was no longer going to stay in a marriage where I didn't feel completely loved and adored.
Mhm.
And I had married my oldest, dearest friend, Tom LaBelle. We had met when we were 4. Our families were close. We were best friends since we were 14. We got married when we were 26. And I went back home, and I really struggled with it. My dad passed away April 28th. And in September of '07, we started going to counseling. We went to one session, and I knew by the second session, I was going to ask him for a divorce. And I loved him too much to embarrass him or put him on the spot at that moment if we went back together. So I asked him to take a bath with me, which we always had our best conversations in the bathtub. And the kids were away. It was Labor Day weekend. And we sat down, and I spent 45 minutes, and I just went over our whole life, from childhood to adulthood. And I said, "I just have one question. Will you let me go?" And I thought I didn't want to say, "Will you divorce me?" I just said, "Will you let me go?" And 30 seconds later, with tears running down his eyes, he said yes, because he knew we were broken too. And I was no longer willing to make him at fault for not being able to make me happy. He was whole and complete as he was, and we were friends. And so we spent the next 45 minutes putting our children at the center of the universe and designing what our life would be like together apart with our children at the center,
Mhm.
from then on. And I think we did an extraordinary job.
I think you did too.
We have two sons, and we co-parented them. They lived with Tom for a week, and for me, next week. And every Friday for 10 years, we had family night. The four of us were together. Rarely was anybody ever invited into that cocoon with us. And all the way through high school, the boys continued to be committed to us as much as we were committed to them. Um, now they're 24 and 27, and as and they're wonderful guys, off living their best lives. And as much as we tried to cocoon them from the perils of divorce, they didn't know anything different than they didn't have a family. So they still have some wounds to heal, and that's unfortunate. But gosh, we sure tried to do the best that we could, to make a difference there. And I'm happy to say that I'm happily remarried to the love of my life, and my business has grown, and I'm a successful entrepreneur in real estate, and I don't think that would be the case if I had stayed in a situation where both of us were unhappy. But it was really seeing my father's eyes that day before he died that I realized there was a different kind of way of living out there, and I wanted it too.
Oh my gosh, Catherine, that is such a great story. But I knew you through this time, right? And I was
Mhm.
always I have three sisters who are divorced at some point. And the stories you told me, and I'm sure it was difficult to start with, right? But the fact is that you guys made it a tradition for Friday nights that you spent it together. You had dinner together, you played games together, you made it all about the kids,
Mhm.
and I was always just such in awe of that, that it's like I wished my sisters could have had that as well, because on the other end, even though your children may have some wounds to heal or that they think need to be healed, right? You did the very best you could, and I don't know how it could get any better than that when instead of having parents s fighting and calling each other names and all of the stuff that happens, how you guys just completely made a family there out of almost out of pieces.
Well, we were very strategic about it, because um, it was very important to me that the boys understood that they were not the cause, right?
Mhm.
Um, so Tom and I each read books on divorce. We came up with the 20 most likely questions that they would ask, and we sat down and we answered them together. From, hey, where are the cats going? And I didn't want the cats, so I said, oh, the cats go with with the litter box. So but we also wrote a letter from the two of us to the two of them.
Mm.
And the gist of the letter basically said what they were created out of love. We will always be a family. We've been through difficult times before, and we'll get through this just the same together. So, the boys were never able to work one side against the other, because even though we weren't willing to be married together, we knew it was important to stand together as parents.
Oh, such such a lesson for any two adults that are going through something like this, that there can be a better way. And I think I've always said that to you. You should write a book about this, right? So,
That takes another level of courage.
yeah. So let's talk about this for just a moment. So who helped you through this milk crate moment there?
um, well, I think we had an amazing network of friends that we had been a part of since Ian was 3 years old and Brian was 6 months old. And they knew that we were trying our best, and they supported us. We went to parties together, and even Tom's family continued to invite me to holidays. I think that was incredibly brave on their part. It's not normal. But again, the Dugans and the LaBelles had literally grown up together. And so, I thought it was kind that they did that.
Very kind.
I went to therapy for a year, you know. I don't think that's bad. I think sometimes you get so much in your head that it makes more trouble, and just talking it out makes the wounds go away. And the way that we decided in September of 07 to get divorced. And I said to Tom, from this moment until we tell them Martin Luther King weekend in January of 08, we cannot do anything that would create a feeling in the boys that this is their fault, right? So we never moved out of the bedroom. We never moved out of the house. And we knew we would have to sell the house once we got divorced, but we wanted them to finish the school year. We called their aunts and uncles and told them what we were going to do. We called our good friends. We called their teachers and said, this is when it was going to happen. It was a 3-day weekend. We told them on a Saturday morning, and by Saturday afternoon, we had Tom's brother and my sister-in-law over with their 2 girls to play with the boys so that they could get some emotional release, right? So then we got divorced in April of 08, so it's going to be 15 years here soon. And we sold the house in May.
Wow. Well, Catherine, speaking of selling houses, I think that's a really great transition over to what we want to talk about next, which is, what is your business?
So I have been, I've had my own real estate business since 2004. I'm under the Baird and Warner brokerage. And I started off when the market was on fire in 04, newbie. And just business just came from everywhere. I moved from Buffalo Grove down to LaGrange in 06. I was working with my uncle in the business at the time. And, my father died, and we got divorced in 08. And guess what happened in 08? The whole real estate market and mortgage market just, disintegrated just when I was getting divorced. So the next 3 years were pretty tough. I have to say that we ended up going through bankruptcy and foreclosure, and I ended up using up my 401k in those 3 years. But I said to myself, I've been independent. I've made money before, put myself through high school, through college, and I can do it again. It's about serving the needs of other people, and you get a life back from that, right? So here I am, almost 19 years in, and my business is better than ever, and I love what I do, and I'm more energized now than I've ever been. To just do this profession in a way that really elevates the experience for the client.
Well, I think, listen, I know a lot of realtors, right? But when my daughter was buying her first home, right, you were the only person that I recommended to her. And you took her, you were so gentle with her and took her through that entire process. And for that, I'm going to be forever grateful for you, because you made it such an amazing process for her. So, Catherine, how can people, so you work in the western suburbs of Chicago, right?
Yes.
You work in all the Chicagoland area, or just the western burbs?
So my office is located in LaGrange. I like to say that I work the BNSF train line, in terms from Berwyn to Naperville. But I try to consolidate my listing clients within 20 minutes because I really think it's important that you service your listing clients,
Mhm.
be able to get to the house quickly and so forth. You don't know if keys gets lost or what have you.
Right.
So I'm in the western suburbs. If I have clients that are further away or in a different state or even in a different part of the world. Baird and Warner has 28 offices, of which I have referral networks there, but I'm also part of the #1 relocation network in the world called Leading RE. So I've helped family and friends all around the country find excellent agents as well.
Ah, I love that. I love that. Thank you so much for being here because that's a rough story, right? That really
You
was
see how red my face is?
yeah, but it kind of gave me goosebumps when you talked about it, right? In certain pieces there, that it's like, oh my gosh, this is you were really sharing a very private piece of your life there, and I think that sometimes people don't think about the number of milk crate moments and how deep they are and how they got through them if they don't ever look back and talk about it, right? And who's going through it that could learn from what you just said, and I hope the lesson they learn is that you can get divorced and still be a decent human being
Mhm.
for your
Well,
kids.
but if I wrote a book, it would be Divorce, a New Paradigm, right? Just to change the paradigm, but also, when you find that you can no longer sustain a situation, I just felt like jump and the night will appear, and
Mhm,
that's truly what happened. I had faith in the outcome on the other side,
mhm.
and we just lived into it.
Well, and another important piece is you were not I'm sure you were, but you had the uncomfortable conversation even though you were scared to have it,
Hmm.
right? And I think that more people need to say what's on their soul eh, kindly, right? It sounded like you were very kind when you asked for a divorce.
Well, and again, and this is an important aspect, I think. There's nothing wrong with Tom. He's whole and complete. So am I. Just meant that um, we didn't mesh well together
As a couple.
as a couple.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, but I think we need to take that idea of victim out, right?
Oh god, yeah. Yeah. So, well, thank you for sharing that piece of your milk crate moment because I think so many people could learn so many things from what you said here today.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. I've really enjoyed it myself. Thank
Oh
you,
my
Jean.
gosh. And if you're looking for a home in the western suburbs or Chicagoland if you're buying, no, if you're selling, right? No, buying or selling.
To buy and sell, call a bell.
Oh, there you go, right to oh, wait, but did I not put that up? I did not. Let's put that up. I wanna make sure we have time, right? www.labellesells.com. I love that, right? Labellesells.com, you'll be able to find Catherine's contact information in there, and listen, you guys, you're gonna love her because she's got obviously, she just told us here today, she's got a really kind heart. So, Catherine, thank you
Thank
for being
you.
here. Love you, and I will talk
Love
to you
you
soon.
too.